Hello and welcome to today's Facebook LinkedIn Live. Today I'm delighted because I'm going to be chatting with Lindsey Roberts and we're going to be discussing, get my words out, how to define success when it feels others are leaping ahead. So we're live today on Facebook and on LinkedIn. As people are joining us, do let us know if you can hear us all okay. Give us a like or an emoji. That would be fabulous. But today I'm chatting with life coach Lindsey Roberts and we're going to be talking about how to define success when it feels like others are leaping ahead. And we'd really love to hear from you. So do pop your experiences in the comments, whether you're watching this now or on the replay. Do give some examples of when it's felt like you've been standing still in your life and others have been leaping ahead, because I know that there's definitely been times like that for me. So thank you so much, Lindsey, for joining us today. And we're going to be talking about times when, you feel like people are leaping ahead both at work and at life. So I know that there'll be a lot that resonate with people.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
No,
It's
that's
lovely to
all
be
right.
here.
It's so nice to have you here. So before we jump into today's topic, which I'm really excited to do you want to give people a little bit of a brief overview as to who you are and what your business does and
Yeah,
how you got involved in your business?
absolutely. So I'm Lindsay. I am a life coach and I run a business called Gold Digger Coaching. And it's not what I've always done. So I've done this for around 3 years, but prior to that, I worked for 12 years in a corporate environment, working in marketing and brand. And absolutely loved that, had a great career. But then had a breakdown in 2019. That shifted everything for me. I decided to have a massive kind of, not a midlife crisis, but definitely like just a reconnection with what it was I wanted to do and how I define success really. And I retrained to become a coach and am now here talking to you.
It must
And
have felt
working.
at that point. Did you feel at that point, when you'd had your breakdown and weren't working, that it felt really like others were? Were you at that point? Were you comparing yourself a lot to others?
Absolutely. I think one of the main things that really stood out for me, especially when I went back to work, I did go back to work after my breakdown, and the company that I worked for was so supportive of me kind of going back to work on a really staggered, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, that kind of thing. So it was really, had a lot of support, but I was very aware that everybody else was running at a million miles an hour on a treadmill over here. And I was like just gently walking on a treadmill here. And I felt like very alone. I felt like it was just me that was doing things differently, and everybody else was over there just running as they'd always had
Yeah.
been. So I did feel kind of like it took a lot for me to kind of realize that it was okay for me not to be running like everybody else. That
Yeah,
something
your
had happened
treadmill
to me
was
quite,
okay.
yeah, my treadmill was okay, and something like really big had happened in my life, and
Yeah.
it was okay for me not to define success like that anymore. And I think that was, I had to redefine what it looked like for me, because for years I'd defined it success connecting to my career, and that was
Yeah.
the main focus for me. Like I was very much a career girl. That was the focus. How high could I climb up the ladder? And that was the priority for me. And I felt like everything else kind of went by the wayside, until I had my breakdown, reassess things, and then move forward to where I am now. But I don't want people to get to the breakdown stage before they redefine what success looks like for them. So that's why I try and work
Yeah.
with clients to make sure that I can kind of talk about this kind of stuff, because it is important for people to feel like they don't have to be like everybody else to be successful, and having
Yes.
your own way of doing things and your own path is completely okay.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, we've got Afsar join. Thank you so much for joining us today. Um, I think that is so true, because I think it's as well like with personal life. So it's work and career. You see that you read it in the books, don't you, when you're kids, and it's like you see the 2.4 kids, the family, the husband and wife living with the two kids in a nice detached house somewhere, and they've got good job, whatever it. And then if you're not following that path that has been drilled into you since early childhood, then it's really hard not to feel like you're not doing things right and that you are
It
being left
really,
behind.
it really
Um,
is. I think it's like a generational thing as well. I think
mhm.
generationally, the expectation, like from my parents, grandparents, was you left school, maybe went to uni if you were lucky, then you went to work, you stayed in that job for 30, 40, 50 years, you
Yeah, and you got
retired.
those promotions in that job.
That was, you were kind of working your way up, and that was how success was defined. But I think now there is so much more, like, you know, it's globalization, you know, we've got that connection with other people that we would never have normally had maybe like 50, 60 years ago, that just shows us that other things are possible. So it's just being able to kind of accept that it doesn't have to be linear in your success. Like, it can go sidestep up a little bit, back a little bit, and that's okay. But it's getting to the stage where you feel that you can accept that, because it is like unlearning like what the definition of success and really redefining it for what it looks like for you.
Yeah. So when do people typically come to you, you know, when they feel like life's not maybe gone how they would have hoped, you know, when they feel like perhaps standing still? What are the situations that can make people feel like that?
I think people feel like they're not connected with their why. I think a lot of the time, if they're not really connected in with what it is they really want to do, why it is they want to do it, I think that is that's when I see a lot of clients, is that they feel like they're just going with the flow. It's just happening, like life feels like it's happening to them rather than happening for them. And I think a lot of the time people come to me at that stage because either their life has changed, things have changed, in, you know, circumstances have changed, and they've not spent time looking at their values and what they really value in life. And I think not defining your values is like, that's the starting point. I think is that really understanding what it is that you value in life, really how you would define success for you, is where we start when we're doing the coaching sessions and things. It's those people that feel like they know this isn't what it's supposed to be like they know, like, it really, like, is this it? Like, are you sure this is it? Like,
I think we all have that. Is this it? Yeah. And you probably get to a point in midlife and then you think, oh, I had all these dreams and plans when I was a teenager, and what's happened to them?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, you know, it's accepting that circumstances change, things change, but still being able to like dial back into, like, you had those dreams for a reason when you were younger. Like, what is it about those dreams? Like, you might not be able to do that exact thing. But it's also realizing that there was something really specific about that was important. So how can you pull that out? And then do that with your life now.
So because obviously society, we get fed, this is how we should be, you know, like we talked about, you know, I think there's a lot, you know, for example, with home ownership, you know, young people aren't being able to buy homes, and I know that is a dream for a lot of people. Maybe it isn't for everybody, but that's something that's sort of being fed to our, you know, our generation, that we should be striving for that, and you know, it's a good thing. But that again is a value that's being imposed by media, by society on us as individuals. So how would people go about actually defining then their own values, sort of shutting out all that noise and thinking what is important to them? Because some person might just want to travel, you know, and not be tied down.
I think it does. I'm not saying it's like it's an easy thing you can just like write things down and it's done. It does take some work, and I think it's really just having an awareness of your current values and your current beliefs. So spending some time writing down what they are. If you don't know what they are, then that's fine as well. Like, there's no like right or wrong, like, oh my God, I should have all this done. Absolutely not. But really identifying from a beliefs perspective, especially identifying where you've got those beliefs from, and if they're your beliefs or if they're beliefs of somebody else, either that you've lived with, that you've grown up with, and then accepting the fact that it's okay that your beliefs are different to theirs. And it's an acceptance, really, that you've only got, I mean, this sounds like a little bit, you know, we've only got one life. Like, why are we living somebody else's life, somebody else's beliefs and values, when we know that's not going to make us happy? And it is harder, you know, it takes practice, it takes some courage to be able to step away from that. But really starting to think, like, you know, what do I actually value? where are my beliefs coming from, and then what beliefs are important to me, and starting to feel comfortable being able to step away from that.
Okay. So you managed to define your beliefs, you know your values are, but there might still be people then that it feels are achieving those values and that life that you want to lead. So whether that's home ownership, you see, your friends being able to afford a home and you can't, or getting married, or finding that partner, or whatever, or having children, or getting that promotion. So how then do you deal? What would be your advice to somebody that feels quite stuck and is feeling quite triggered by seeing other
Yeah.
people moving ahead?
It's a difficult one because we are in a digital world where everybody shares their highlight reel,
Yeah.
everybody shares the good bits, forgets to share the messy bits in between, or
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that they haven't done, or the fact they might have got a mortgage but they're now eating beans on toast for the next like 4 years. Like,
Yeah.
it's just understanding that people are only sharing online what they want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of accepting that what they're sharing might be completely different to what is actually happening. I think it's really about accepting where you are. It's an acceptance thing. You've got to accept where you are right now. And you've got those values and beliefs in place. So you understand where you're going to go, but it's about having a timeline that's right for you as well.
Yeah.
So it's making sure that you've got a timeline in place. So you've got your values and beliefs in place. You might want to set a goal. So it might be, actually, I really want to buy a house in 3
Yeah.
years. But then it's like making sure, like, everybody can say, I want to buy a house, or, I want to have children, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but it's then
Yeah.
having the plan in place to actually go away and do it. Because we
Mm-hmm.
can all keep saying, oh yeah, I really want the big house with 2.4 kids, but what are you actually doing
Yeah.
to make that happen? And how are you prioritizing that in your life
Mm-hmm.
to make
Yeah.
sure that does happen? So it's kind of working backwards. And it's what a lot we do, like when we're goal setting. So that's where you want to be in 3 years. So what does it mean that you need to do in the next year to get you to where you want to be?
Yeah.
And then it's boiling it down even further. So it's like, right, if I want to be here in a year, then within this next month, I need to do X, Y, and Z. So you really kind of just break it down into really granular steps that might feel like it's really simple, but
Yeah.
they will all just compound. And then
Yeah.
if you've continued to take those actions, you'll be where you want to be within the year.
Yeah.
And then you can
That's good
focus on.
advice.
So it is like we all have these dreams and aspirations and things that we want to do. But I guess the question is, how much do you really want it?
Yeah.
How
Is it
important
you
is
that
it to
wants
you?
it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, is it you, or is it that you think that this is what you should be doing?
Yeah.
And there's no, you shouldn't be like, um, we all talk about, oh, I should do this, I should do that, but where's the should coming from? Is
Yeah.
that like an expectation that you've got from a family that, well, you should buy a house? Like, I rent in London.
Mm-hmm.
I we couldn't afford to pay for a mortgage in London at the moment, but we choose to do that because it's right for us.
Yep.
Where everybody around us is buying houses, they've had children, they've done things differently, and it's just been able to dial in back into what's important for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but something really practical is making sure that you've got those actions that you can go away and take on a daily basis to
I
make
think
sure you
that's
can get to
good
where you want to
advice.
be.
It reminds me of the book. There's a book called Atomic Habits. Have you read the book, Atomic
Yes,
Habits?
it's very
And it's
good.
just
Yeah,
about
James
those
Clear.
tiny little teeny tiny habits that if it's a house, for example, it's basically putting that money aside, I guess, every week, that little bit of money, and then it will build up, you know. But I mean, this was when I was trying for a baby, and it felt like all my friends, when there's something you really want and it doesn't seem to be happening for you, it is extremely triggering, like you say, seeing that
Absolutely.
on social media. So I took myself off Facebook actually for a good few years, and I
It's
think
really, it,
it's what I
yeah,
needed
I
to
think
do.
absolutely, like, just protecting your energy, I think, is really important. I think if you feel like you're getting sucked into the success of other people and you're spending so much time and energy focusing on that rather than actually focusing on your own stuff, then it's time to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
one thing I would recommend as well is really focusing on what it is you can control and what you can't control. So there's a guy called Stephen Covey. He's been around for decades. He wrote the Seven Habits of Highly Successful People. I think that was the book. And he talks a lot about the importance of focusing on what you can control and you can't control. And if we spend too much time focusing on the things that we can't control, like what other people are doing, how other people are reacting, what they've done this week, what they've got in life, you end up having a very fixed mindset, which is then focusing too much time and energy on other people. Whereas if you focus on the things that you can actually control, then you get a much more growth mindset, which is will then open up other possibilities because you're focusing on the things that you can control rather than the things that you can't. So that is a lot of the time, like when I'm feeling like overwhelmed and stressed, or I'm like, oh my God, should I be like, what? All these other people are doing this stuff. I'm like, what can I control about this situation? How is this helping me? By focusing on this person over here and what they've done, how is this helping me move forward with my goals? Probably not a lot, but it does take a lot of practice to kind of have that conversation with yourself, to say, just kind of bringing yourself back in line, and just having that awareness.
This is really good advice. So you managed to define your values, you know what your definition of success is, if you're feeling triggered, you're sort of thinking a little bit about how to avoid those certain triggers. But often, sometimes what happens is, and I've had this, where you go to a party, and this would be a triggering question for somebody to, you and your husband plan to have children, or you'll be single and you'll go to a family party. Are you met somebody yet? Are you still on your own, or have you had that promotion yet? Or have you bought your house? There's a lot of societal expectation, isn't there, on how we should be living our lives, and then triggering questions, often by really well-meaning people that don't mean to be being rude, about questioning you about your life choices. So how do you deal with those questions? And that can be quite triggering in real life, and it could be, I've used a family party as an example, but it could be at work. Why aren't you going for that promotion? And you might have gone for that promotion but just been overlooked
and
not got it.
Yeah, I think it is a couple of things. So firstly, remember that the person asking the question is probably coming from, like, not coming at it with any malice or anything like that, but they're asking that question from their own beliefs and their own values. And to them, having children is really important. That is what they understand to be success. So they can't understand why you aren't considering having children, or you're not thinking about it, or you're not trying. So it's accepting that I'm saying it like it's an easy thing to do. It's not. It takes practice, but it's accepting that they're coming at that questioning with their beliefs in mind, not thinking about your beliefs. So firstly, that is the first thing. And then secondly, I'd prepare like a line to be able to say in these situations. So if you want to go in, if you know that these kind of questions will come up, it happens a lot. I know, like at Christmas, like when all the family are around and it's like, oh, why haven't you done this? And are you going to go for a promotion? Why are you single? Like, I've had that for years. So it's being armed with a couple of lines that you maybe have practiced, that you feel confident and comfortable to go back with when they come up with those questions, just to kind of help protect you a little bit. Because especially, if something's really important to you and it's not happening at the moment, if it's maybe around trying to have children or go for a promotion and things just aren't happening for you, that's a really great way to protect your energy, because you're not going to spend hours trying to have to justify why you've chosen to do this way or why it's important to you. It's just one or two lines that, oh yeah, it is important to us, but we're just going to wait a little bit. Or, yeah, I have thought about having that promotion, but there's another couple of things that are happening that I'm focusing on instead. It doesn't have to be like, it can be a little white lie, that's fine, but it's just a way to protect your energy so that you don't feel like you're having to explain yourself every time something like this comes up.
Yeah. And then I guess another question would be is you might, at work, taking it back to work, you are going for that promotion, you've not got that promotion, it went to your colleague and you feel that was unfair, that was the wrong decision, it should have gone to you and you feel quite overlooked. What advice would you give to somebody then?
I would advise stepping away from the situation for a little bit. Don't go in feeling very emotional about what's going on. That's not to say you shouldn't show your emotions at work. I'm not suggesting that at all, but I've been in a situation where I have reacted and it hasn't gone well. So I've been very, very emotional going into a conversation and did not deal with it in the right way at all. I think it's about going away and making sure you're prepared for a conversation and putting yourself forward to have that conversation with your manager or whoever was giving feedback to understand why it didn't happen, what could you have done to make it happen, like what would I have needed to do in order to be able to get this promotion, to make sure that they're really specific with what it is that is missing. And if they can't be specific, then it's kind of pushing that question a little bit more, because it might just be, and this is awful, but it might just be around budgets, which is an awful situation to be in. But it might be that that other person is less expensive than you, so they can afford to give it to that person. Unfortunately, that's sometimes what it comes down to. But it's been really clear, and having that conversation with the person who is the hiring manager or kind of in charge of that situation, to understand why it didn't happen, but then also what you need to do next time. Like, this is something that I'm still really interested in. I'd love to understand what it is that you need me to do in order to be considered for this promotion next time. And really making sure that you've got that written down. So then if that is the goal, that where you want to be, like we spoke about having the house in 3 years, if you want to work to that promotion in the next 6 months, you then go away and say, right, this is where I want to be. So these are the things that I have to then go away and do. And I'm going to work on that on a daily basis. I would then be having that conversation with my manager on a weekly basis when I have one-to-one catch-ups.
Yeah.
And measuring yourself against those parameters that they set, because they set the parameters of what you need to do. So then if you're going away and like, right, I've hit this goal, you're giving them the evidence of what you've actually achieved. So when you have that promotion conversation in 6 months, if it happens, great. If for whatever reason it doesn't happen again, you've got the evidence there of what they asked you to deliver and you've delivered. So then you can have a much more frank conversation, I guess, about then why hasn't it happened? And if it's
Is
still
that your
not
point
happening
then,
for
to
you,
walk away? Or
yeah,
I guess
exactly.
that's the
And then
point,
it's like,
isn't it? You have to be willing to walk away as well.
yeah, and it's like, why, asking yourself, why is the promotion so important for you? What does that give you? Can you then get, if you've done everything you've been asked to do and beyond, you've got the evidence that has happened, you are working towards that promotion and it hasn't happened again, then you can ask yourself the question, can I get that from somewhere else? Or can I get it in, does it have to be a different company? Does it have to be a different role? But really being very open and honest with your manager, your team, that this is what you're working towards and this is the focus.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So how do people work with people then to help them? Because I guess the first step is this defining the values. And so how do you work with somebody then to help them identify those values and those definitions of success, and so they can achieve that?
I think that is one of the first questions we focus on in a one-to-one session. So it is really understanding, firstly, why a life coach, why they come to work as a life coach. It's different in terms of we are very future focused and very forward thinking. So it's not about talking about the past or anything like that. It's about having those actions in place and taking steps to where you want to be. So it starts with asking questions about, what does success look like for you? Like, why is this important? And really asking the questions that you probably haven't given yourself the time or the space to sit down and answer for yourself. So we do that in one-to-one sessions. We do that in, I do a 90-day on track program. So keeping people on track. So we set goals at the start of the 90 days. We then work together through those 90 days. You've got me in your corner, kind of cheering you along and giving you a kick when you need it, because often that's sometimes a thing. We want to feel like we're motivated, but motivation isn't something that we should be waiting for. So it's me just giving you a kick and a prod every couple of days to check you're on track. But then also through coaching programs and workshops as well, just to be able to have these kind of conversations, because the more conversations we have like this, the more people will feel connected with what is actually really important to them, and for them to be able to question, oh, actually, like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So why am I like killing myself working in a role that I really don't like? It's not really giving me much fulfillment, but it's kind of giving you the permission to be able to go and do what it is that you really want to do.
And it's quite a powerful thing, that, isn't it? And obviously
absolutely.
Hearing other people have, different, goals that, you might not have considered before is really empowering. Oh, actually, I could have that goal, and and if it is, obviously, if it is your goal, but yeah.
And we so often get kind of stuck in the kind of bubble of the career and working your way through the career, but actually having those conversations with different people, and me telling my story like this, really just lets people see that, oh, well, she's done it, so she's done it, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And then it just kind of plants a little seed in the brain, and then that can grow, and that's where I can help.
Oh, brilliant. So where can people find you, connect with you, and learn more about you and your services?
So they can find me on, my website is golddiggercoaching.co.uk. It is gold, GOAL, not gold, which sometimes gets confusing, not gold digger. Also on LinkedIn, you can connect with me, Lindsey Roberts, on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with everybody who's listened in with the session today and continue this conversation. Really, I think it's a conversation we need to keep having. And also on Instagram, if you want to watch me make a fool of myself doing reels and having lots of different conversations and having a chat, then come and find me on there as well.
Brilliant. I will put all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Lindsey, and thank you to everyone that's watched live and on the replay.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.